Hello everyone, welcome to Milkshake North America's Facebook page and welcome to our live today. For those of you who do not know me, we haven't met, my name is Brittany Tester. I'm a Z1 concept educator and a braiding ambassador with Milkshake. So today's live is really exciting because I'm going to be sharing with you not only the winners to the braiding contest we've been having, which there have been some phenomenal entries. So we're going to announce that at the end of today's live, along with the prizes that you are going to win. But to build up some suspense and a little bit of a class or demo, we're going to be doing two different braids. These braids are going to be combined together to create a nice cohesive look. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite braiding products and what I'm going to be using to support these styles. So the braiding products I'm going to use, part of our Milkshake Braiders line, was launched earlier last year, and those of you who have worked with it, I'm sure have fallen in love very quickly, but I want to go over briefly why I love using these products and why they're so important to doing a very supportive, long-lasting, and finished technique. I'm going to grab first our braiding lotion. This has an awesome consistency. It's a little thinner, hence the name lotion, but what you can expect from the braiding lotion is a little bit of hold, a little bit of volume, one box on each of these, which those of you familiar with our Milkshake lifestyling line know that we have this awesome little chart in the back so that you know how much volume you're gonna get, how much hold you can expect, and lastly, the shine factor of each product. So this has 3 shine to it. The next aid I'm going to use is the Milkshake Cream. Again, the consistency is all in the name. It's nice and creamy. It creates some softness to the hair, and it kind of hydrates the hair too. So the amount of hold and volume aren't a lot, but you're gonna get beautiful shine from this product and great control, I find. Along with all of these 3 products, the braiding line, you get what you get in the rest of our Milkshake lifestyling line. So that means you are going to have ingredients like quinoa proteins and fruit extracts that are kind and healing to the hair. So not only while you're styling and your style is going to last, you're being nice and gentle to the hair. Lastly is our grease. Now, what properties you can expect from the grease is, one, in terms of our hold. We don't have any volume, but high shine, maximum shine when it comes to what you can expect from the Braiders grease. So depending on the texture of hair you're working with or the desired outcome that you want to achieve, you can utilize any 3 of our braiding products. And just like the rest of our lifestyling line, they are not only layerable, but you can also blend the products with one another too. And I'll show you some of the options I like to do with that. But I'm gonna grab our model here today. As I said before, we're gonna be creating a cohesive look, but utilizing 2 different techniques for braids. And when I'm doing these techniques, they're both 3-strand braids, and they're both technically French braids, but each one has quite a different look from one another. I'm going to start by taking her hair down, and I'll be prepping her with a little cream, give her hair some softness, and work on any of the dryness she has. It's mannequin hair, so she is just a little dry. But what you can notice about the cream as I'm applying it is how it decompresses the hair a little bit, but it has an invisible effect on the hair. And you can come a little closer here if you like. So as I'm combing, you can just see that invisible effect, but the beautiful shine that we have. Now, if you was to go in and immediately start braiding a head of hair without using any prep products, I'm sure each of you have had challenges or know what that's like to be fighting frizz, to be fighting flyaways, even layers when it comes to hair. So control is going to be our best friend. Make sure there's no snags in her hair. And then now I'm going to part her off. So I'm going to start with a side part here. And I want to make sure that her secondary part is a little off center. So we're going to take this section and clip out of our way for later. Now I'm going to be working with the bottom of her hair here. This first braid is going to be our base for the style. My goal with this braid is to have a very fanned out, very two-dimensional look to the braid. I don't want to build a lot of volume or height on her head. What I really want is it to be nice and flat. I'm going to grab my lotion. And to show you the consistency here, see how it's nice and thin? So it's very easy to distribute. I like to apply it all over my hands and then dip my fingers into my palms to really grab the hair to work with. So, now the section I'm taking is a little bit of a narrow triangle, if you can see. May add just a little more because I want to start this braid with a decent density. It's almost see-through, my section is. Applying my product to both sides here. And making sure that I'm working very cleanly. That's another reason why I like to use the lotion in this effect, because it does have a little more hold. Splitting my section into three even sections. So where I want to make sure I'm even is what's in between my fingers here. And now when I go to braid, I'm going to be going underneath my sections, and I'm going to be making sure I don't twist my hands at all. I want it to be very nice and flat. So separating, making sure I have control, I'm just pushing my section to my middle. I'm going to repeat this then with my opposing side and holding this very flat, you see. Now here's where it gets interesting. This next section, before I move it, I'm going to grab a little bit of hair. I don't want to take too much density off the section I'm going to be braiding, but I don't want this small enough to where it cannot split it into 3 sections later. And you'll see what I mean. But I'm just moving that right section underneath to be my new middle while I grab this section to pin to the side. Those of you who are familiar with, say, like a waterfall braid or even a lace braid, this technique will probably look really similar. But what I want you to remember is the section we are leaving out for later is going to be towards the middle of our braid, and you'll see why that's very important. But we went to our right. I am going to grab a nice clean section from the hair or from her head to add to it. And again, we're going very flat with this, so making sure I don't have any big splits or bumps. I'm using my hands, you can use a comb. whichever you find easiest. Now, my top section or my left, I'm pushing to my new middle. And then again, I'm going to grab hair from the head to add to this section. Again, you can use your fingers, you can use a comb, but I really just want to push that hair to where it's flat. And I want her fairly tight. So we're working on our right again. With our right, we are taking a small section towards the middle. And I am going to add it to my last left section. Take my right, add, and then add from the head. And I'm going to be working along her hairline to just have like a soft, like face framing effect to it. So again, I'm pushing that hair down, making sure that we're nice and flat. I'm taking my left section here. Bringing to my new middle before then I add from the head. This again is so important that you prep the hair before you even start braiding, because these sections you want to be very clean. Now we're on our right again, so you guessed it, we are going to drop a middle piece. I'm going to tilt her so that gravity can help me here. Taking that right, pushing to my new middle, pulling everything flat, and then adding from the head. I want the sections I'm adding to be nice and consistent, and again, of course, very clean. I'm going to start turning my braid now. So I just pushed my left to my new middle. Some people like to do this at the same time. I prefer to do the French braid in 2 steps because I find that it allows me to really clean up my sections. So that now that my left or that top section is added and nice and flat, I'm going to grab a little bit from my middle here again. There she goes. Clean up that right, add it to the middle. So you see, it's a really simple 3-strand French braid, but the effects are incredibly intentional. Oftentimes, if you have a guest who is coming in with a picture, I like to decipher that picture or really break it down to see what they're seeing. Is that braid flat? Is it 3-dimensional? Is it a 3-strand? Is it a French braid? Is it an inverted? The more techniques you can have in your toolbox, the better, or really the more that you can achieve with the hair. Adding again to my left from the head, but pushing flat. See, that's not tight, or not tight, it's not setting off the scalp too much. I almost forgot. We gotta add. So, taking away from roughly around the middle, and then pushing that right to my new middle. keeping these little ones in line. Still have yet to add, so I'm making the turn around her ear here. I want that really nice and clean for her. Okay. Set. And then pushing my left over. And this is about where I'm going to start to hide my braid later. So this will be the last section I pick up. Actually, let me do one more here. Let's do a new clip. Okay. As long as you have control, this looks a little different up here, maybe a little messy, but knowing how much control I have over the braid, how consistent I am, I know I'm good and set up for the next steps here. So that will be the last section I add. Now I'm just going to simply do a 3-strand braid, pushing my section in. And again, on my right, I'm going to continue to drop a little bit around the middle. If you can, try to grab a longer piece. It will make it easier on you later. Pushing my braid flat. And notice how I'm moving with my braid. That's how I know I'm not going to get any weird, awkward bubbles, because I am shifting along as I'm doing the French braid. And that's something you can do whenever you're doing any type of braid to avoid any bubbles in the hair. Now that I'm on my right side again, I'm going to drop. Section. And continue to braid. Not adding anything, just simply dropping from my right. Your sections that you will be dropping here are going to progressively get shorter and shorter. Okay. And now I will just simply finish this braid on up and secure with an elastic. Now, I'm going to be doing some refinement on this braid, so I will be grabbing my cream again. You could use either the lotion or the cream in this effect, but sometimes your hands, you don't want them to be too sticky from your own sweat or a buildup of any type of product. Drop those sections. So I'll use the cream. I'll use the softer of the two products. Just a little bit. And this I'm applying all over my hand so I have a nice barrier, so I know I'm not going to grab a section and it completely pull apart or come undone. Let's get these guys nice and clean. Okay. So I will be starting at my elastic here, gently pulling each section. Don't forget this little one that you end up with at the end too. And again, I'm working very flat. And I want to make sure that there are no like gaping holes in there, because that doesn't have as cohesive as a look. More or less pushing that braid. This is where you want to use delicate hands. Oftentimes when I'm styling hair, there are times to use a little more heavy-handed approach and then a little more delicate-handed approach. This, you want to be quite delicate because since we have these little sections coming out from the braid, I don't want to jeopardize that at all, or jeopardize the bottom braid. And I did put a little clip on the end so that I can work with both my hands. And I simply want to make this braid bigger and flat. Make sure you're grabbing the braid itself too, not the sections you grabbed from the head. That's how you create that braid on top effect. So again, this part is time consuming, but you definitely want to do this before you do your secondary braid. Makes it look much cleaner. Another thing you can use is hairpins or any type of U-pins to secure your fanning there. So how I do that is I'll take like a little bit going in pretty perpendicular to the scalp and like push and then scoop up. Don't worry about these sticking up from the head because they will not be there forever. I'm going to continue working my way up to the beginning of our braid. Checking my work as I'm going. And then this beginning here, I want to have that nice and clean. Get a little poking out here. Okay. So now I'm gonna just add a couple more of these pins as my placeholders. And lastly, right where we started this braid. You can too add some at the bottom. I typically like to just simply do the top. But hey, you know, the more the merrier. Right. So our first braid, our base braid, is finished and complete. Set up, secure enough to where we are going to then braid on top. I'm going to drop her a little bit here and then pick up that first section we talked about. Okay. So from here, I'm going to decide where we want her real part. Let's move it in a little. Okay, let's see. So, this is what we'll be working with. I'm going to clip these hairs out of my way here. And then use some of my lotion. Actually, let's add a little bit of the grease for maximum control. And you can see the grease consistency. The thickest of the three products. So when you're working with smaller braids, it's really nice. So when it comes to this particular technique, I'm going to apply my grease throughout her hair. Come through. It has a beautiful finish, so I want to make sure I get that consistently on her hair. Now, we will be splitting this braid again into the three sections, making sure they're as consistent as possible. Feel them in your hands. Perfect. How the other braid went, technique-wise, we went very flat and almost pushed the sections in so that we didn't have any rolling whatsoever. So it was as flat and tight to the scalp as possible. Now with this braid, I want to create a different effect. So we are going to roll our sections, and when doing that, this braid is going to sit higher up off the head. And if you have anybody with layers, it's great to grab onto those layers so you don't have any of those little hairs poking out. I know that's a challenge with a lot of people whenever you are braiding with some very layered hair. By doing this motion here, okay, we're going to get a little closer with our hands. You can twist the section before you put it in, but really I want to roll my section into my new middle. Okay, get that tight. And then this section here, which I have a little more here that I can grab. There we are. That's why it's important to stay clean. Twisting, just roll that section to my new middle. So, rolling. I'm doing this braid a lot tighter than the previous. Rolling. I want it to be a little mini braid. Going to keep rolling. And I will be following that previous braid, that base braid right underneath. So I'm almost twisting. And we'll do one more on the right. Once I'm coming to this first section that we dropped, I'm going to stop for a moment and split it into three separate sections. See that? Three separate sections. So however you can do this to combine to each working section. That's why it's going to be nice to be controlled and take your time. So I'm going to tighten these up. Make sure I'm organized. Okay, last one I left on. I went underneath with my right. That means I'm going to go the opposite with my left. And again, I am twisting my hands or rolling them. And then repeat on the right. Just repeating that same method. Okay. Now we're coming up to the next section that we dropped. So I'm taking a moment, organizing my hair. You can almost roll the section, it splits itself into three. Last one we did the left, so now we're going to go on our right. Keep track of your sections and keep them clean. I'm going to move along my braid here. Okay. Last one was left. Now we're going to go over with the right. Rolling, tightening. Do one more section. You don't want to grab these fallout sections too soon, because then all that braid is going to be sitting up on top of the skin, and you guessed it, you'll have a bump. And if you notice, I like to try to avoid those. Okay, we're splitting into three, combining with our moving braid, and then figuring out where we left off. See how much tighter and smoother this braid is? And the look is emphasized actually by that grease, which is really helpful. We are to our next section, so we will split again in 3. But notice how we're sitting right on top of that fan braid here? So we're not doing 2 separate braids and then pinning them together and having to hide bobby pins in this really little braid. She's gonna have a stacked braid that is going to be very secure. Let's push her down a little here. Okay. And then again, subdividing into 3. 2, 3. Okay. She gets 1. Bottom one gets 1. Top one gets 1. Okay. And we move the bottom braid slightly, so that's why I like having these placeholders here. I can always go back and fan it out a little bit, but the fact that we did that beforehand is going to make much less work on ourselves later. Okay. Let's roll. To our next section, splitting in 3. And again, I'm rolling my section. You also want to make sure that you are sitting pretty tight to that braid. I'm not braiding all the way out here and then trying to push it or compress it closer to her head. Okay. Let's add a little more grease. Especially now since we're getting to some of the ends of her hair. We want a very clean effect, especially with this braid. Now we're adding. I'm going to adjust her up slightly. Bear with me just one moment. There we go. Real person, you can just have them help you out a little. Okay. But it is important to keep following that section here. Normal. And then add. If you are doing a person's hair who has finer textured hair, this is great because you're securing these 2 braids on top of one another with minimal bobby pins, so minimal risk of slipping, or even if you're doing someone's hair who's younger and has that baby fine hair too. And of course, someone with very thick hair, this will have a really powerful effect on, which is really awesome. Okay. And then this section is a little smaller, a little shorter, so notice it is just a little more difficult to add. And this will be the last one that we add. There we are. Those smaller ones are just a little more difficult. I'm going to just continue rolling. But you can roll and push that braid up, but just notice how much tighter it makes that braid. So even though both of them are 3 strands, each have a different finish to them. And that's what's really going to step your braid game up. Having more tools in your toolbox to create just a large variety of braids. So now I'm going to do my finishing work with that base braid. Using my hairpins here. And so really there's no limit to the types of braids you can stack onto one another, but if you want to connect those braids without having to rely on bobby pins and be forced to hide them later, you just want to make sure that you're dropping sections. And then when you braid them back into one another, you create a very secure look. One that's going to last quite some time, one that's going to be good to go for the rest of the evening. But notice, because I drop those sections really close to the center, I don't have to worry about trying to center my top braid. It centers itself. And that's another reason why I added that small section to each of my working sections. That's why I split it into 3. Because if I was to just add it to one, that braid is going to veer off center. I'm really liking the way that is looking. So, to finish her style, I love the look of this double braid, this layered effect on that hair that's down. So I just want to add this back section underneath, almost make it invisible. So, how we're going to do that is simple. And again, to be consistent with how we want it to be supportive and secure, I'm going to split. We'll split her hair a little further over. This is just a judgment call based on how much of the braid you want to show and how much of the braid you want to hide. I'm taking this entire section here, pulling it over to the side. Let's use a more secure cord with that. I don't want to create any indents here, but I want that to be quite secure. And then I will do a little triangle right behind the ear. I'll be securing with an elastic in roughly the middle of our section, because I do know the braid isn't overly long. I don't want to force her all the way to the bottom here, but I want to make sure I'm past the curve of the head. because I want this to be quite flat. So I'm securing my elastic to the middle of my section, but quite tight to her head. Take this. Smooth that hair down to create a really beautiful base for our braid. And then I'm going to secure with another elastic. You can condense some of these together if you would like, but you don't necessarily have to. Using the elastics are going to be awesome, especially if her hair is finer and bobby pins tend to slip.
Rebecca says hello from Ohio.
Hello, Rebecca. Not too far from me. And I don't think I said this earlier, but we're actually coming to you from Central Illinois, so right here in the Midwest. She's got a little fuzz. So now that she is finished, I will finish with a little bit of our medium hold hairspray. Beautiful. You can take these out or push them straight in. See how it hides that really nicely? Totally your call. If you push it in and it's still showing, you just go ahead and take it on out. But these are no longer necessary. And there we have a stacked braid with two separate techniques as to how to achieve, if you want to get a little close in here, that braid, and then finishing with hiding that braid with an elastic. So we were able to use all three of our braiding products, each for their specific reason. I used my grease when I needed to make that cleaner braid with a high shine, and I needed a little bit more hold when working with smaller sections. I used the lotion when it came to working with that bigger, fatter braid, that flat one at the bottom, and then I used the cream to create some softness and some slip to the hair. So there you have two techniques in one to create a really beautiful, cohesive look, and you can integrate that braid into any style. So I want to jump into our next portion here and announce some winners for a contest that we have had recently. Those of you who have been watching our page have noticed that we've had a little contest going on via Instagram to show us your braid. And we've had a lot of really wonderful contestants and entries and some really beautiful braids. But with all due suspense, I will go ahead and then let you know who our winners are for these braids. I want to start with our third place. So third place, you are going to win milkshake braiding or milkshake lifestyling products worth $150 salon value is what you'll be receiving. So who is getting this prize? That goes out to her tag at erica.stylist, located out of Oak Park, Illinois. So congratulations, Erica. On to our second place. Our second place is going to be winning a braiding station mirror and milkshake lifestyling products that are worth $200 salon value. Who will be winning this at our second place is Primp Salon 1188 is their handle. And it looks like it is Tiffany from Primp Salon. So congratulations. And lastly, for the first place winner, what you are going to be getting is a braiding traveling station with the Vanity braiding mirror and Milkshake lifestyling products, which I have a slew of right behind here, of worth $250 salon value. All of those goodies are going to be going away to the entry at Luxe Beauty Lab, located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And we'll be getting the stylist name who has entered that, but congratulations, Luxe Beauty. You are our first place winner. So to recap, we have third place, Erica.stylist. Second place, Primp Salon 1188, Miss Tiffany. And lastly, first place, Luxe Beauty Lab. So on behalf of all Z1 Concept, I want to congratulate all of you, each and every one of you, all of our winners. You did a fantastic job. And if you missed this, Brian is going to be jumping on, one of our directors of education, Brian Creek, to share with you again the wonderful prizes that you'll be receiving today and our winners. And lastly, I want to thank each and every one of you for entering, all of you who've joined me on this live today, and wish you a wonderful week. Be sure to tune in to our Milkshake live videos, which are taking place, I believe, every Monday now, and on our Milkshake Instagram for viewing of our winners, keeping your eyes peeled for more contests in the future. And again, thank you for sharing with us your braids and joining me to share with you a little bit of mine.